You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, I know, I choose my words, I know what I'm saying. I've got one of the glamorous people, which is not gender related. You can be glamorous if you're a man or a woman or whatever you're signalling as. But I've got one of the glamorous people in the Australian TV, radio, communications, chat, showbiz arena in Melbourne, Victoria and Australia. And she is a star. I haven't known, I've known her for a while, but only through my professional comings and goings at the station I used to work for. But it's a delight to have Nicky Buckley in to speak to us about her great career.
Thank you. It's kind of awkward sitting here listening to you say all that.
Ah, yeah, well, no, we actually only speak the truth. What we think is the truth on this. We get criticised a little for things we say, but we believe what we say is true, so that's the only thing that matters to us.
It's a funny statement, though, when you say, like, I have come in a bit glammed up today because I have been working, but, you say that, and then in my mind it's like, oh, that's so not me, because, it's, back home it's very much a la natural.
And these
no
days,
with my voice.
These days, Nicky, you've got to qualify yourself. If you're saying a woman's glamorous, you say, well, that's objectifying someone, and that's sexist. And I just did, if you'll remember, just cast back, I did say that doesn't necessarily apply to a woman. Men can be glamorous, and so can anyone else.
So
How
true.
am I going, Sue? Am I digging a hole?
No, I think you're doing fine.
yeah.
I take it as a compliment.
Yes,
Thank
good.
you, Sam.
Well, you're a veteran of, I won't say how
I won't
old.
take that as a compliment.
You're a veteran of the industry, and here's the first Dorothy Dix. They won't be all Dorothy Dix questions, if you know. Do you know who Dorothy Dix was, Sue?
Absolutely not at all.
Well, Dorothy Dix was someone I think you wrote to in the Woman's Day or the Woman's Weekly back in the day in the 50s, and you asked the obvious questions. How do you get stains out of your shirt? How do you...
I thought that was Martha Gardner or
well,
something
it was.
like that.
I think Dorothy Dix gave advice on relationships, and I think so. But it's in the lexicon of language, the Dorothy Dix questions, the bleeding obvious questions. So here's the first one. They won't all be bleeding obvious. How did you start this business you're in?
In television?
Well, just in the industry, yeah.
All right. So I did my HSC, as we called it back then, finished my year 12, went to...
They called it matriculation when I went to school, so that's how
matriculation and then
that's how
HSC.
Different generations we are.
Our high school certificate. And then, what uni are you going to? So I went off to Monash Uni to study economics, accounting and politics. My dad was an accountant, and I was always kind of good with the numbers, so that's what I thought I was going to do. And I got there and it was nothing like what I thought uni would be. It was, definitely needed a gap year, so I deferred inside the first term, and I went home to Dad and he said, what are you doing home? And I said, I've deferred. And he said, which subjects have you deferred? And I said, well, all of them. And
it went over like a wrought iron hang glider.
Well, what do you think you're going to do? And I said, oh, well, Mum thinks I can be a model. And Dad at that stage worked in the industry where models were not as what I see models at, and he was just like, don't you think you can get by in this world, young lady, just because you might think that you've got a pretty face and And anyway, I kind of fell into the modelling bit, and my first modelling photo was in the Herald Sun, and I think I had a cockatoo made out of butter, and I had the chef's hat on, and I'm, kind of sculpting this cockatoo, and Dad was so proud, and he took it down to the bingo, and this is my daughter, and been my biggest fan ever since.
So Mr. Buckley is still with us?
He is still with us.
And he'd be very proud of you. And
very
he's
much.
Since said to you, what a tremendous decision you made, Nicky, back in the day.
Well, I just kind of did it for fun and I enjoyed it, and from the modelling fell into the television side. Started out as a model on sale and kind of took it from there.
So we just spoke to a model yesterday, didn't we? Beverly Pinder. She came in and spoke to us. She was Miss Australian Universe in 1978.
Something like that.
Was she? What is it? 1978? I'll
You've
check
got
that.
your notebook there.
Yeah, I know. They're wrong. Anyhow, and And I said to her, well, one of those great sayings that males say, well, you're not just a pretty face, Beverly, because she's gone on to have a PR company. And same with you. You're an academic of sorts.
Wow.
Well, you are. So obviously Perfect Match was probably the start in the 90s of it all happening for you with my great friend Greg Evans.
Yes, indeed.
He's a lovely man, Greg, and it must have been heady days because it was the #1 rating show in the world, I think, at that stage.
Yes, so that was my first, I guess, step into television presenting as opposed to being a model that pointed at things. I think that opportunity came about because Grundy's was running Perfect Match or Blind Date when I did it, and also Sail of the
Was
Century.
it called Blind Date?
Yeah, but they brought it back as Blind Date. So there was no Dexter.
No.
When I got the gig. And
So you did it. You and Greg did it. It was called Blind Date, not Perfect Match.
But people remember it as Perfect Match.
No, well, there's the first mistake
Yeah,
I've
you've
made,
made
Nikki.
one. Okay.
Well, I only got that off the bio
Yeah.
that says about you.
Oh, I was wrong. Anyway.
Well, it was wrong, yes. So, all right, Blind Date. Well, and what did you have to do?
So I presenting once again, coming out, chatting to Greg at the beginning and introducing the contestants. I lasted 6 months, which is not a very long time, and I got the sack pretty much because.
Did you?
Yeah, I wouldn't be kind of girly, giggly,
Objectified,
bimbo-ish enough.
yep.
Yeah, and I used to get told out the back, now when you come out tonight, Nicky, just be a little bit more silly and a little bit more giggly and, just say, a bit of a joke to Greg like this, and I'd be backstage going, yeah, okay, and I'd come out and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
and good on you because that's...
No, I didn't last long.
No. Well, anyhow, people realised what they had in their hands, and it didn't do you any harm at all because then you had an 8-year stint, did you not, on Sale of the Century with Glen Ridge.
I did.
And how did you get on? How did you get the gig on that?
Okay, so when I finished with Blind Date, Grundy's asked me to go back modelling on Sale of the Century. I had a lot of friends telling me, don't do that because you're now a presenter. You can't go back and just be a model. And I was like, well, I've got a mortgage and Murray works there and it's fun and I enjoy it. So I just, stepped back in. But I did like that little, foot in the door that I had with the presenting. And I thought, I can do this. I like this. I'm just going to go and work on myself a bit. So I went and studied acting because I needed to get over that fear of worrying what people thought about me, which is how I felt when I was doing the Blind Date show.
We'll get on to your acting in a minute.
Oh, Lord.
We'll just ask you about it because I know you've done that. So go ahead.
I did acting. I did voice lessons and then...
Did you?
Yeah.
Who taught you those?
Oh, gosh, I can't remember.
No, but... and how does that go? Is that the rain in Spain?
A
or
little
what does
bit,
it do?
yeah, and it was breathing and it was just trying to, I guess, I don't know.
Enunciate.
Yeah, I think so. It was more the acting that I did, but I did do a little bit of the voice work.
Well, the man's or the woman's done very well because you enunciate well,
I don't
Nicky.
know. I think I still sound very ochre, but that's okay because that's what I am. Mm.
Well, that's who we are.
Exactly.
Have a listen to me.
Exactly.
China.
Yeah, mate.
It's taken me 50 years to stop calling people Dal.
Sorry, when I walked in here, you said, "Come on, Dale, just sit down."
I know, and it's just that's not meant to be offensive. It's just an absolute habit. But so I don't know how that can be. Women call me Dal.
I call everyone Dale.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, good on you.
Okay,
Was it a man or a woman that taught you? Oh, had the elocution
lessons? It was a woman, but it was a very small part of the story. But I just do remember going and doing that and thinking that I like this presenting role, so I want to be prepared if the opportunity ever comes again, which it did with Sale of the Century. So there was a time. So when I went back to Sale, Joe Bailey was doing it with Tony Barber. With Glen Ridge, and then there was a gap. Joe moved on, and they had a time where they had just various presenters.
I know. I've got them all.
Do you want to just tell me my story?
No, I've got them all. I've got them all written down because we interviewed John Michael Howson
right. Yes,
the other
I had
day.
listened to that,
and he mentioned all the people I grew up with, all the Graham Kennedy and Bert Newton and all the people who are in the industry, and I've just read who you've worked with and taken over from and filled in for,
Right.
and they're all the household names that I know as well. Yeah.
So what happened was then for the last episode of this particular year, and I can't remember which year it was, they had been letting other celebrities fill in, and they decided to let us models all have like Sale went for 5 days, so all of the models got to present one day just to finish off the year. So I was ready for that opportunity because I'd been, doing a little bit of acting, so I was very comfortable in doing it. And then over that summer, I filled in on the weather. Got that one there?
Yeah, don't you worry about that. I've got that there. I'm going to ask you about the weather. Go on.
So did that, and actually when I auditioned to get the role of filling in for the weather, I brought my acting kind of into it, and I went to my acting teacher and I said, I've got this opportunity to audition for the weather, and he said, okay, let's just set the scene. So we went somewhere and he set up, and I was practicing reading the weather maps and all of that.
And Nicky, I don't think people realise I think this is right, because when you do the weather, you're not actually you're pointing at some
green screen.
Indirect, aren't you?
Yeah.
I know that because sometimes you look at it, because when I say I've been in the industry, I've never done anything like that, but you point at a green screen and they play the real picture up. That must be difficult to come to grips with, is it or not?
Well, I was never really quite as talented as the weather girls I see these days, because I never pointed to anything. I just turned my head and look, and then I'd go back here and look. I wasn't dare going to point to anything in case I got the wrong spot.
And you read an auto cue.
You read an auto cue.
Yeah.
Have you got the little story about me and my auto
No,
cue there?
I haven't.
Okay. So this was one of my most embarrassing moments on TV, because back then the auto cue, as you would know, was paper fed through a machine, not like it is at the moment. So I was reading the weather, and the weather is live, and all of a sudden the girl's auto cue got stuck, and I can't read a map, and I can only read the words that are coming up on the auto cue. So I'm just kind of thinking she doesn't know that it's stuck. So on camera I'm going, it's stuck, trying to say it under my breath, and then I realise nothing's happening. So what do? Then I lean off camera and pick up my paper notes and bring them back in, and I start reading from the paper notes, and then I can see the paper notes on screen. So then I drop the paper notes down, and then she gets it going again. And I thought, remember John Sorrell?
Yeah, I do.
I thought I was
remember
going
John Sorrell. Yeah,
thought I was going to get the sack, but obviously it wasn't my fault. But
no, so
I died.
So you probably carved out a new one for her after they went off, after the weather was over. You probably said to her, "What is going on?" Or did you just say, "Don't worry about it"?
Oh, I had nothing to do with her.
No,
you know what I mean? I just ran off and just thought, "Oh my God, that's it. I'm going to get the sack." And yeah.
Did Did you ever think of saying, "Look, the auto cue has stuck. I am sorry, I can't tell you much more about the weather until it gets going again. Anyhow, I hope you have a great weekend. And how's life going? Oh, it's back on."
Yep. I reckon now that's probably what would come out of my mouth. But back then,
I know,
it was dead set embarrassing.
Fantastic. So you mentioned on Sale of the Century. You mentioned Murray, who is Murray Bingham, who is your husband, who you met on the set. Did you not?
No, so you haven't done your research.
Good God! It says. Did Murray
Everyone
Bingham
assumes.
Did he work on the Sale of the Century with you?
Yes, before me, actually.
Before you?
Yes.
You were never on together?
Yes, we weren't together, but I was overseas modelling and he got the job on Sale before me, but we met way before then at Flinders Street Station.
Right.
On a Sandringham
train. But you weren't
train.
going out with him then, were you? You were?
Before Sale,
Yes.
we're childhood sweethearts. I met him when I was 16.
I see.
And we met at Flinders Street Station.
Write down how many mistakes I make here, Sue, will you?
What
but
are we
it's
up
good.
to?
Look, it's good
No,
because
well, you can't.
correct
I
them.
did say I was going to send you through, and you said, "No, I'll do my own
No,
research,
but
Nicky."
of course, Nicky, this is good because you are now just showing what a clown I am. When that has happened all my career. I'm so. Now, I digress a little because I was part of this program, and I know Murray was, much to the chagrin of you and everyone who was watching. I was part of a show called Surprise, Surprise.
Oh, Sam.
Which was, is it Jay, someone, who was the bloke who was the compere? Mara
No
or
idea,
Leigh.
because mine never went to air, did it, Sam?
Well, it didn't. And so, surprise, surprise, was this show where they tried to make a dickhead out of everyone. And I was taken out into Point Cook, and there were some traffic lights out at the end of a dirt road. And I said, you've got... in fact, they didn't put most of mine to air because I used a few expletives. I said, what the... Is a traffic light out here for... And then the police helicopter was... I said, what would the coppers be doing, wasting their time? And it was all a setup. And the helicopter landed in front of me because I went through the red light, because it was in the middle, like in the middle of Australia. And I said to the bloke who's beside me, I said, what the frick? And then the coppers landed. I said, can you believe the police? Oh, I didn't use that word. I said, the dumb using
I can
their...
imagine.
And I so they didn't put any of that to air. And they got out, and this Jay came over and said, I had never heard of Surprise, Surprise. He said, it's Jay from Surprise, Surprise. I said, surprise, are you surprised that there's fucking traffic lights here? I said, what is this shit? And he said, mate, this is a show. I said, and I looked around, and there's all the people I knew from Channel 9, and they'd put police over the Channel 9 logo on helicopters. So that did go to air, but... Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it.
Tell us the one that didn't go to air with you and Murray.
Yes. So I actually remember when the show was on and they were filming it. I remember saying to Ian Johnson, who was the MD of Channel 9 at the time, I said, you could never fool me for that. I would always know what's going on.
Yep.
So this particular day, it was our anniversary, Murray's and my anniversary, and we were going away for the weekend, and he said, I've just got to, drop this off, do that, and I'll pick you up. So he picks me up in another car. And I said, where's your car? And he goes, tells me some story. And we start driving through Port Melbourne. And before long...
So, of course, he was in on it.
He was in on it.
But it was you they were trying to sting.
That is correct.
Yes.
So he got pulled over by the police, and the policeman came up to the door and said, can you please step out, sir? And I'm like, what's going on here?
Where were you?
I was in the passenger seat.
Oh, were you?
And so I'm thinking, why is Murray carrying on like this? We haven't done anything wrong. Yeah. And then I had to get out of the car. So I hopped out of the car, and then he jumped back in and sped off.
Yep.
Around the corner, out of sight. Next minute, I see a cop car chasing him around the corner. Then I see this car, which is no longer Murray, but a stuntman has jumped into the car Murray was in, up on two wheels, speeding back in front of me with the police chasing it. And I'm just standing there, and there was police coming over to me, and I'm screaming out. At this point, it was the anniversary of Murray's...
Sorry to laugh, but it is. I saw it.
Yeah, it was the anniversary of Murray's brother had passed away. So I'm in my head thinking, what? He's trying to kill himself to be with his brother. Like, that's where my head went. Because I've got this madman on two wheels smashing into, pyrotechnics that are blowing up in front of me, and I'm screaming at the police to stop it.
Did they know Murray's had lost his...
They didn't they didn't know it was the anniversary and anything of that. They would have known, but they didn't know it was the anniversary. So, it just kind of kept escalating, and I was crying and screaming, just thinking he's going to kill himself. Yep. And then all of a sudden... they kind of stopped it, and everyone's run out from everyone. Oh, this is like surprise, surprise. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And then Murray comes walking around the corner and I'm crying, and he goes, at least I know you love me, darling. But it was very traumatic. It was really, really traumatic. And no, they couldn't put it to air because I was just super distressed.
I remember that well. And did you say to your husband, Murray, please don't do that to me? Or did you see the humour, the intended humour in it?
Yeah, I did afterwards, but it took me a really long time because inside it was reality, and inside I just saw this person who I didn't know because I didn't see him switch cars, and I thought he was trying to kill himself, and it was very distressing.
Jay Lagaya.
Yes,
Jay Lagaya. I said Jay Lamana. That's the fruiterers. Lamana's banana. So just to finish on that, so they did that. They wound Fatty Vorton up at a golf course up in Rich River, and they put some incendiaries. And they said that they said you've got to be careful because there were World War II ground bombs or things that they put on the ground to blow up. and she'd got to be careful of him. And Fatty was playing, and he played a shot, and they exploded one next to him, and he shit himself. And as he was running away, another one exploded over there, and they couldn't put that to air. So I'm not making fun of this, but they couldn't put that to air because the very next day or week they're going to put it to air was the Bali bombings in Bali. So that didn't make it either. But
what didn't make it?
I think I was the only clown that was on. I'm not sure what else they did.
I think Lavinia Nixon was stuck in a telephone box or something
was she?
like
Yes.
that.
So now you did the weather. Did you bone up on the weather about isobars and just climatic
I
changes?
had no idea what I was delivering.
You just
I was
read
just
it.
reading the
Yeah.
words, filling in, because it was summer. So Rob Joel would take his break and I filled in for him over the summer. And then in that same summer, I got the opportunity to audition for the co-host role with Glenn.
Of Sale of the Century. Now, Sale of the Century, you gave away prizes, and what was the gist of the show?
Yeah, prizes and money. Trivia.
Yeah,
I think it's a great family show.
So yes, it was. So the idea was to give things away. Did we ever fudge the answers to give? Do we ever fudge and give stuff away when we thought we'd be?
God, no.
No,
there was
get in
one
a lot
time,
of trouble if you do that.
Yeah, there was one time when we sat around for a whole day, I think, waiting for them to get on to the Vatican, because the question was something about, some Christian born, and they had one answer and we had a different answer. And so they had, because there's money, big money involved, they had to be 100% correct.
Yes.
So no fudging.
No fudging.
Unless you've got another story there I've forgotten
No, I
about.
haven't. I have not. So Pete Smith, was he the voiceover
Bless
for
him,
that?
yep.
Yeah, bless him. Glenn Ridge, I've got now Tony Barber, Victoria Nichols. I only mentioned Victoria Nichols. What did she did? She was on Sale of the Century. There was a whole lot of people on Sale of the Century over the
Before
journey,
me,
wasn't it? Because it went
Delving
for
Delaney.
I've got Delvin Delaney here, and I only mentioned Victoria Nichols because do you know that she brought out a record? Do you know what the song was called? Midnight Rendezvous.
Really?
Yes, and Sue, if she's clever enough, she'll get Midnight Rendezvous up, and we'll play that through the thing. You'll get a surprise at the end of this, so I've got something for you to do as well. Nothing nefarious. So I remember Delvin Delaney, who married Strop, John Cornell. So all those names I remember, a bit like John Michael Housen. So then you did. Now tell me about this. You've done a whole lot of hosting things and taken over from people and filled in for them. Good Morning Australia.
Filled in for a bit there.
Yeah. The Today Show.
Yep.
Just
when they need a host to fill in, kind of thing. So
Kerry Ann, you took over.
Yes.
You hosted for her.
I did.
Yeah.
All
Did
these
you
things
enjoy
I've
all
forgotten
this?
about.
Did you find
Loved
it traumatic, or did you find it? It was always. Did you find it was just the adrenaline going to hope that you did it properly, or did you just
Yeah, always. But I'm pretty well. I mean, unlike today, which I knew we'd be fine sitting here. Preparation to me is the key to everything. Yeah. So anything like that, I would want my questions or who I'm interviewing or whatever the day before. I'd always like to do a little bit of research so that I could sit there comfortably and do it.
I've made my whole career on not preparing for anything.
Yeah, so we're polar opposites.
I did that for 25 years, not preparing for anything, and of course, it got me into more trouble than I should have got in because they said, "Oh, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't say that, or for God's sake, don't mention that." So, and that's the way it is. It's like walking a tightrope without a safety net. So then you became, the modern jargon is you're an actor, but you're an actress, because we always like to differentiate between men and women. So an actor to me is a man and an actress is a woman. So I'm calling you an actress. You then started, you made a film, you acted in a film called Under the Gun. Under the Gun? Did you?
Oh, I would have had like Very,
Cameo part?
Very, very tiny. Yeah, cameo, very tiny.
What did you have to do in Under the Gun in
God.
1995?
Are you serious?
Do you remember doing the film?
Yeah, I do, because it was with Paul Curry, who I did my acting classes with. I remember more the plays that I did with Paul, which was where I played a drug addict in one and a witch in another.
Plays?
So, plays.
Well,
Stage plays.
well,
Did you get
now,
that bit?
not
It was
at
more
all.
important than Under the Gun.
Well, I knew that. I was only leading you in for you to say I did plays which were far more important than Under the Gun. Give us the plays. What were the plays?
The plays were...
Where?
One was called Juvie, just in the local, you know, somewhere around here probably.
You're a star.
No,
you are.
this was all during my acting classes, which I
Yeah.
kind of fell into when I, got the boot from Blind Date, because I was probably not, doing what they wanted me to do, because I was too afraid of making a fool of myself. So then I wanted to kind of get out of that zone of, worrying what people thought about me. So the acting was just an amazing time in my life. My brother was also studying with us, and he is now an actor. My brother is. He's done lots and lots of...
Not Nathan by any chance?
No, definitely not.
Yep.
Jason Buckley is my brother.
Yep, Jason.
But yeah, so the plays back then were just really pushing yourself right outside of your comfort zone.
Breaking Heads?
What?
Breaking Heads?
What's that? Is that something? No, I did. One was Juvie, and one was it was The Witches of something. So yeah, many
I'm
years
looking
ago.
at Breaking Heads. It said you're in a movie called Breaking
Really?
Heads. Do you
I
think I
don't-
make this stuff up,
Well,
Nicky?
I would love to see what I did.
Well,
in that.
that's all right. Well, tell me you didn't
But
do...
Under the Gun was a very, very small.
Yeah.
I feel like I was actually doing something like we're doing now, talking in a microphone, a
talking-
secretary or something like that. Nothing important.
So this must have been, I assume, a labour of love. You then in 2006 did a show, or was the main presenter of Talk to the Animals?
Yeah, I loved doing that.
Did you like doing that?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
How did that? And what was that about?
I think that came about. I did Dancing with the Stars. Have you got that down there?
I have.
What
got
year have you got for that?
I've got Dancing for the Stars. I've got Dancing
Because I
for the
felt
Stars.
like I did that, and then a whole lot of other things kind of popped up, like Talk to the Animals.
Yep.
Just a fun. That was when my real presenting, different type of presenting. Sale of the Century was, co-hosting, and things like Talk to the Animals was probably my first, foray into presenting on a television show, and it was challenging at first because it was new to me, but a hell of a lot of fun.
I had Dancing with the Stars here, and I can't see it in my notes.
I can't. I'm so hopeless with years.
So
Doesn't matter.
Who did you dance with? And how did you go? And what did you dance? And what did you wear?
I danced with Andrew Palmer, who is a dancer from Tasmania, and I think I lasted about five episodes, which wasn't bad because I wasn't a great dancer. I found it. You have to be really, really.
Well, who is a great dancer?
Oh, well, some people are hidden dancers and they don't even know. But I'm opposite. Like, so if there was a part where they wanted you to, roll your shoulder to the right, I go, look, I can do this with the left. And they go, no, you got to do the right. And I go, but I'm unco there. So the night that I got kicked off, I kind of broke my dance of. Is a bit of a bogan dance is what I like to break out into on the disco when they bring the music out, So there was one part of this dance we were doing and I worked in a little bit of my bogan into it, and I thought that was the best thing since sliced bread, but we got kicked off that night because
you got further than me. I did an audition here in this very room
for Dancing with the Stars.
For the woman came down and the man, and very nice people, and my ankle, I could hardly walk on my ankle because I just had it operated on, and they brought a very charming lass down here to be my sort of theoretical partner, and I could hardly. They said, we'd like to have you on, but you can't actually hardly stand up. I said, well, I did tell you that before you got here, and they said, we thought you might have been just exaggerating a little because you didn't want to be on. I said, well, anyhow, so that's how far I got. So they never asked me ever again.
Oh, it was a challenge. It was a real challenge.
So Talk to the Animals. What did you have to do with that? Did you tell me that?
Oh, kind of. So it was.
No,
That was
you didn't
probably
tell me.
my
You
first.
didn't tell me that, Nicky.
I started to, and you turned your back, but.
I went to get the thing
You
about
went to get
Dancing
your
with the
notes.
Stars.
Talk to the Animals was probably my first time where I got to, present a whole, television show. Yes, Mr. Big Bit.
I had that too. I had that. I've had a bad day, Nicky. Seriously,
Sorry for coming in on a bad day.
No, these are how my days pan out these days. You were pregnant when you did Dancing with the Stars. Were you not? Please tell me you weren't.
No. Listen, when I take you through this, you're surely going to remember this. This was on Sale of the Century when I was pregnant.
Yep.
So it's a long time ago because Cooper is now 27 years old. So we're talking 27 years ago.
So in the bio, it said you have 3 children, and they mentioned one of them, and they didn't mention the other 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How dare they?
I know.
I'll mention them now.
Yeah.
Cooper, Jasper and Baxter.
Yeah.
Loves of my life. Beautiful boys.
I remember
young men.
I remember they said Cooper, but they never mentioned the other 2.
Well, they should, because Jasper made headlines because Murray delivered Jasper at home on the laundry floor, so that made the headlines.
So you were pregnant on Sale of the Century.
Pregnant on Sale of the Century, and it became a rather big hoo-ha because 27 years ago there was no maternity fashion for pregnant women. It was very much caftans, neck to knees, that's it. I became pregnant on...
She's going to kill me, Sue.
Yeah.
You are a buffoon, she'll say. Yep, go on.
Found myself pregnant, as you do when you're newly married. And actually, my girlfriend at the time, I reckon it was when we were up doing one of those Jack Newton golf tournaments up north, and it was over the summer. And I told my girlfriends that I was pregnant, and they went, "Oh my God, what are you going to do?" I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, what are you going to do on Sale? Like, you can't do that." And I said, "What do you mean I can't do that?" And they said, "Well, you can't kind of be a co-host and be pregnant. Will they build a podium for you to stand behind?" And I said, "Surely not." And they said, "Are you going to keep working?" I said, "Of course I'm going to keep working. Why wouldn't I?" I didn't see there be a reason. So we started back filming, and then obviously, your tummy grows and there is no maternity fashion. So we just went, well, just get me a bigger stretchy size, little fashionable number. And so that's how we did it. And it became very controversial.
Yes.
We had all of the radio stations running polls on whether or not I should be allowed to be working on television. A Current Affair ran a story on it.
Isn't that fantastic? Did Martin come out and buttonhole you at the doorstep? Martin, what's he?
Murray.
What did you
Murray.
say? No, Martin, the bloke on Current Affair.
Oh, these days.
What's his name? Martin, he's a good man, but he used to doorstop people.
Well, he doorstopped other people. So they took to the streets and interviewed people about what they thought, whether or not I should be allowed to continue. And literally the faxes that came through to Channel 9 were like this.
Fantastic.
And the 50-50 column in the Herald Sun was all...
They couldn't believe their luck.
Was, people saying whether you should be or whether, whether I shouldn't be allowed to continue. And I did.
Sue is my backup here, and I said Martin, and she looked it up, and she's given me Ray Martin. No, it wasn't.
Martin King.
Martin King. Marty King.
Yeah, he was probably grabbing the people in the street.
So they couldn't believe their luck, the station.
Yeah, the station couldn't believe their luck because obviously the ratings went through the roof just to see I was wearing.
Yeah, and whether you'd get the flick by people who just think, oh, no, you can't have a pregnant woman on.
No, exactly.
And it would show you were you pregnant for any of your other engagements on in the media or on the television.
Well, this is the thing. So that was, Cooper was born in June, and then the very beginning of the next year I found out I was pregnant again.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it wasn't a big deal. So I went through it a second time with Jasper, who Murray delivered at home.
on Sale of the Century again?
Yeah.
So
and then
don't tell me you've had all your kids on Sale of the Century.
No, then by the next year they figured I was too old to be doing this anymore and they needed to bring in someone younger. So, I got the boot after 8 years. But, hey, I had a ball.
You would have. Now, Nicky, what did you... I have asked you this 4 times and I've probably interrupted myself. What did you do on Talk to the Animals?
I talked to the animals.
Well, what does that mean?
No, well, it was about, whatever animal stories. I remember probably one of my earliest ones, which I was absolutely
Not a
very
snake.
fearful.
Don't tell me
no,
you spoke
snakes
to a
don't bother
snake.
me because I lived in the bush. No, snakes don't. No, it was a lion. It was a tiger at SeaWorld, and we were doing one of my first stories with the tigers, and so they had Anne-Marie Sparkman was my producer.
Yes,
You'd know
yeah.
Anne-Marie,
Yeah, I
and
do.
she's just an amazing producer and really pushed me. And I remember this one very early story where we had the tiger sitting on a log next to me, and she wanted me to, welcome everyone to, talk to the animals and to pat this tiger who, the trainers had just unchained and walked away. And I was absolutely beside myself that this tiger was going to turn around and rip my head off. And they're like, no, they're trained not to, not to take notice of anything. And, next minute I'm patting it and the tiger turns around and looks at me, roars and gets down off the log and walks away. And so I was just, they'd give him a bit of milk and bring him back and, they'd unchain him and I'm just there just dying. And I'm going to the producer, Anne-Marie, I'm so scared. I'm literally shitting myself. And she goes, well, tell the audience that. So I'm like, hi, I'm Nicky Buckley. Welcome to Talk to the Animal. And I was just, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? I'm going to lose my face in a minute.
Anne-Marie Sparkman was designated by Ian Johnson, I think, to come out and produce Street Talk with me. She lasted a minute.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, she was a fantastic person, and but she said, don't go and speak to people who are just wandering around who are vagrants. I said, we don't wander around speaking to people who are vagrants. We just stand outside the car and they come toward us. If you don't want me to speak to anyone who wants to be. And she said, she tried to tidy it up a bit by going to the stock exchange and speaking to men in suits. It was, so I don't think, so she's a very good person.
I credit her with pushing me often to, step outside and I think that she made me the presenter that I am today.
Yeah. Did you look up, Sue, the fact that Nicky was in Breaking Heads?
I couldn't find that one.
No, I don't think so.
find
There's
it.
something about a break cafe or something that you went to or something, or a Facebook something.
I'll
you might
find
have
that.
had a cup of coffee.
God,
there.
I'm really worried now that I've lost my memory because it was Under the Gun. That was it.
Yeah, I know that. And then it said in 1994, it doesn't matter. I will. I've just lost my train of thought here. What does that say there?
He can never read his own notes, I swear. It's like
What does that say
time.
there?
Like, seriously?
Oh, you do a podcast, and so you started. You started a show with your husband called. What the hell's wrong with me? What's the show you started? You did with your husband?
Did I?
Yeah.
Please.
How's he going?
Yeah. No. Well, what's Oldie Goodie? What's that? That's a podcast you do.
I did a podcast called Oldie Goodie, not with Murray. No.
No. Not with Murray. I've got something else about Murray
Right,
here.
okay.
Yep.
No, Oldie Goodie was a little series of 6 podcasts that we did pretty much kind of geared towards people 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, life's good after 50 kind of thing.
What, you interview people who are over 50 and 60? Is that what you do?
Well, yeah.
This is good, but I'm just saying, is that what it is about?
We only did 6.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
And it was talking about some of them were preparing for death. So it was, full on kind of thing, which were quite emotional stories. Other one, which was kind of controversial-ish, was, talking about, we spoke to Chantal Otten, who's the sexologist.
Yep.
And, about people in retirement homes and things like that, still having a sexual life. So it was kind of talking about the taboo subjects, I guess, that people don't want to talk about. Talking about being becoming invisible.
Yeah.
We spoke to Harold from Home and Away, and
yes.
He said that he always felt so present and as being in a show so long lasting, and everyone knew him, and then he felt that all of a sudden when he got to 80ish or something that people just pass you by and you become invisible, which was kind of sad.
I'd be delighted if that happened to me. I'd be delighted if people forgot who I was. I've found this, Nicky. I've found this. It says here you teamed up with Murray Bingham, who's your husband, to do Hot Box Office. Oh, please don't tell me you didn't do that.
So I did do Hot Box Office, but not with Murray.
Right, says you. I'm telling you, I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak to the people who put all this stuff out on
Hot Box Office, I
Wikipedia.
used to go to Sydney once a week.
What is it?
Oh, well, it was so long ago, Sam.
Yes.
It was kind of one of those shows where it's telling you what's coming on in the
I see,
theatre and
so
what's hot in the box office at this time.
Yeah, a bit like not like MTV.
Yeah,
but
kind
a bit,
of.
Yep.
But I used to go. I would go up and back to Sydney in a day, drive all the way out to where they held the Olympics up there, film the show, and then go back, get on a plane, and come home again. But yeah.
So
not with
in
Muzz.
all the careers you've been in and all the shows, have you noticed any bitchiness, any people clambering over you to try and get to the top? That's the industry. If it's ever going to happen, that's the industry it happens in. Have you had to stand your ground and push back on people who want to take a piece of you?
Well, probably maybe I have without even really knowing it, because I'm not a pushover, that's for sure. But people ask, questions like that, particularly about the modelling industry, and they say how bitchy that must have been. I had the most amazing time.
Yep.
The girls that I worked with, in my early 20s are still some of my closest friends.
Yep.
Now we often have, we call it the models catch up, and we all get together. And so
I couldn't get an invite to that, could I? Whenever that's on next.
We'll see.
Yep.
I feel really blessed that, we never saw any of it. We used to be, you'd be going for some kind of commercial, maybe a car commercial or something back in the time. We'd all line up for the audition. We'd all go in and we'd ask each other how each other went. And you always were like, oh, if you don't get it, then, Susie got it because she probably needed it more than me this time. It was nice. It was very nice. In the TV industry, I don't think so, Sam. I've probably always stood my ground, so maybe I'm one of those people that people
Maybe you intimidated people so they didn't push at you.
No, I didn't.
Now, I just wind this up before I make any more mistakes. I haven't made that many mistakes. Now, you've given your services to causes, ovarian cancer cause, and the bushfires. Did you not do fundraisers or events for the bushfire victims? God, please, it says
ovarian cancer is probably one of my big ones.
Did you ever do a telethon for the bushfires? Were we ever there on stage?
No, I wasn't,
Oh,
Sam.
my God.
How are you travelling?
Well, Sue, Nicky said, do you want me to send you any stuff? I said, no, I do all the research of what...
Could have given you a beauty too.
Maybe next time
Well,
you
give
just
us
say
a beauty.
yes.
Give us one.
No, well, you mentioned ovarian cancer. I've
Yes,
been an
sorry,
ambassador for ovarian cancer for nearly 20 years because I lost my mum 20 years ago next year to ovarian cancer. So, there's lots of charities that we all, do and things that come up and you always give your time. But I always find it, something that's close to your heart. We also did a lot for the Asthma Foundation because Murray lost his brother to an asthma attack. So...
Really?
Yeah, so I just, it's always easier to work closer with
I
things
know
that
you
touch your heart.
live down the coast. Could we say a bushfire went near your house down the coast? Then you looked at it from afar, and that's what they've put in the bio.
I don't know where
No, I don't know.
I'm sure they're talking about someone else.
So did you? Now, please tell me if this didn't happen, I'm going to ring the people.
We can do this again tomorrow, Sam.
No, we can't. No, the people will listen to. They'll love this because they'll think, have a listen to this absolute buffoon. Did you walk to China? Did you do something? Please,
yes, we
thank
did.
God
we did
for
the
that.
Great Wall of China walk
Holy
with Olivia
shit.
Newton-John. That was
Man,
with
oh
Murray.
man,
Yep.
oh my Christ! Thanks God for that. So, how did that happen? Why did that happen? Was that was that for Olivia's charity?
Yes, that was for Olivia's charity. So that was a hell of a lot of fun. We got invited to do either one section of the walk or the whole walk with Olivia and all of the other people that kind of walked with her and raised funds along the way. So we both got invited to do it. It was probably one of the best things that we've experienced that we've had. It was amazing. So it was all about raising funds for her charity, and it did raise a lot of money.
I would suggest, Nicky, if you doubt whether there's a greater being that looks after the planet, or someone out there that we've never met before. When you see the Great Wall of China and how far it goes for, you must think, no, this is godly. Who could make that, and how long would it take, and where do they get all the stone mineral? Where do they get everything to make it? It must hit you when you see it.
It is mind-boggling, and it's that, and that's one of the things that that Murray and I both want to do. Sooner rather than later, is a lot more travel, because, we live here, and when you get to go over there and see something like that, it totally blows your mind, and then you get into the history of it, and I find all that very interesting.
Well, if you're into history and blowing your mind and giving yourself a challenge, take Murray up to New Guinea and do the Kokoda track. That will blow your mind.
I did. There was a time when we were going to do that. It hasn't been done, but that absolutely. I love that history.
Now, finally, Nicky.
Yes.
I know this is a fact because you told me.
Yep.
You're learning to play.
I know where we're going now.
You're learning to play the drums.
I am.
Are you any good at it?
No, not yet. I will be.
Will you?
Yep. Okay. No, don't. Bloody hell. You're going to give me some drums. Do you want to know a funny story? I'll tell you a funny story.
This is not a visual medium. This is an audio. So I'm just handing some, and I've got some too.
Right.
So go on. Can you go on?
Well,
Tell
I
us
can
the
tell you
story
a funny
about
story
why.
that's got nothing to do with drums. It's to do with when I was learning the piano, and I was a guest on this.
I tried to learn the piano. I got Peter Sullivan. I bought a piano, and I'm hopeless at it. And the only thing I ever wanted to do, and I can't play them, is play the drums.
Yeah, well, you're never too old to learn the drums.
I reckon I nearly am.
No. No, I was learning the piano many, many years ago, and I was a guest on the Steve Vizard show.
Yep.
And we were probably on there to talk about something on, I reckon it was Blind Date Time or something like that. Anyway, he was asking me questions, this and that, and then much like what you've done here, where you've pulled out the drumsticks, he's gone, so Nicky, I hear that you play a musical instrument, and I'm looking at him, I'm going, oh please no, and he's gone, yes, I believe that you're learning the piano, and I said, yes, I'm learning, and then he goes, what are you learning at the moment? I said, memory from Cats, and he just points over and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, over to Paul Grabowski, was it?
Paul Grabowski,
Nicky Buckley playing Memory from Cats. And I'm like, no, I can't, Steve, I can't. Live. No, over you go. So I had to toddle off over to the piano and did one hand while he did the other. And that was probably maybe my second most embarrassing time on television.
So what, who is someone teaching you the drums?
Yes, I'm learning the drums. So
you have a tutor come round with
I go to my teacher's studio, and he's got this magnificent system. He's got got one set of drums there, and I'm on this side, and he films it as well, so that when you go home, because I said to him when he was teaching me on my first lesson, I said, how am I going to remember all this when I go home? Because that's fine, I'll just film that little bit there, and they flick it through, and then you go home and you can practice along.
But if you haven't got coordination or a beat or timing, it's pretty difficult unless you read drum music. I don't suppose you read. Do you read drum music?
Well, I'm teaching myself to.
Oh, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely, teaching myself to. No, it's a huge challenge, because I don't feel like I'm musical, but I did find out since I've started this that my grandfather, and I do remember being really young and playing under his house, and he had a drum kit covered in, under a big tarp.
Yep.
And so my dad has told me that my Papa was a great drummer in a jazz band that used to play all of the jazz clubs around Melbourne, and he used to drive one of those Indian motorbikes with a sidecar with his drum kit in the side. So I feel like I'm just learning, so I'm not very good now.
Can you do a drum roll?
Well, no. Like, where's the drum kit? Why not here?
Hang on. I don't know if you can hear this. Oh.
No, I can't. No, like I need this bit and this bit, the boom, 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 boom bit,
Give us a drum roll, come on.
But
hang on.
You're better than me. Let's drum roll. There you go.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Boom. Oh, that's great, Sam. Yeah, you can join my band.
I've always wanted to do that.
I'm really enjoying it.
And I'm sure you've watched some drum videos. You ever want to watch the best, and you know who the best is, Buddy Rich.
Really?
You ever seen Buddy Rich play the drums?
Is he jazz?
No, he plays in dance bands. He had the Buddy Rich Orchestra.
Mm.
Have a look at Buddy Rich play the drums, and you won't believe that someone can do that. Be that
It's scary
coordinated.
watching people like that
It
because you
is
kind of go,
scary.
oh, you know.
It
but
is.
when I decided to do it, I kind of thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then, you know, that side of your brain goes, you're too old, Nicky. And then the other side goes, no, you're not. And so, you know, you look at that and you go, it doesn't matter. Like, I just get joy out of
Yep.
doing it
Having
and
a crack at it.
learning, and your
Yep.
left foot's doing this and your right foot's doing that. And
Now look, Nicky Buckley, not one of my finest hours. This no, it's been no, it's been great. It's been a fine hour speaking to you. But I'm going to check those things when we finish this. I'm going to say that you acted in a play called Breaking Heads, and if I'm going to show you where it says that.
I'm keen. I want to see it because
Hey, no, you're a star, and I've known you from afar, not a close
we didn't
friend.
even touch on golf or anything.
Now, I'm just about to ask you the final question is, do you play golf down at the coast where you live?
I do, Sam.
Do you? And
Yes.
what are you off?
26?
That's I reckon I'm off 26, and Murray's a keen golfer
Murray's
and
a
a
great
keen
golfer.
surfer. More.
Yeah, well, since the hip replacement, he hasn't been doing much surfing,
And what's
but
he
he's a
off?
good golfer. He's off 5 or 6. He
Five
had
or
He had
six?
40 points yesterday.
Off 5. Holy mackerel! That's
He's good.
parring the course.
Yeah,
No, that is if you.
Well, he birdied and he had a double bogey and the rest were pars, something like that.
Well,
you know,
that's
I got taken through hole by hole.
I know that's what they do. That's what we do. That's
what
one
we
over
do.
the card. What won't say what course was that?
RACV.
Oh
Torquay.
yeah! Wow, how and he takes you out. He can
Yeah, so
tolerate
this is
playing
something
with
that-
women, can he?
Yes,
Like all
it took us a while because he's very good, and it's taken us a while to work out where he can actually teach me, and I'll take it on board. There's a lot of me storming off,
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
seriously storming off the golf course, swearing, and just going home and being in a shit for 3 days.
And giving you a lot of advice, and you saying, he said, "Listen to me. I'm telling you this. Do that.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Stand
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Leave
Just
it
let
to
me.
me."
I don't want to know. I just want to hit.
That's
You
it.
have to go play golf with him then.
Yeah.
Seriously, you two will get on like a house on fire.
You reckon someone can throw a tantrum? Come and play with me. No,
I've been there when you've thrown
I'm
a
very
tantrum,
good. No,
Sam.
I'm pretty good. In fact, I tell you why I'm good now, because I don't play anymore because it's got to me. So when we finish this is what happens when I have a chat to people. They'll say, "What have I missed here? Come on, what? Tell me what I should have asked you about your life, or something that's happened, or you've told me an embarrassing thing about the auto cue. What else?
Yeah, no, I
What's a
think we're
great
good.
thing that's happened to you?
Look,
Who have you met in the industry?
I don't think like that really. I mean, I just think that the people that I've worked with along the way, I've friends with a lot of them, had a great time working with Glen Ridge. Those times in television, and you were there, it was just the best times,
it was.
I think. So I feel happy to have done that. I feel lucky in all the different things that I've done. I always felt like opportunities came up, but I think you also make your own opportunities. Like you just kind of, if something came up, then I would prepare well enough.
You know why they were the best times, Nicky? I'm not getting you to agree with this, but I'm saying this. They were the best
In your
times because in my opinion, only one man's opinion, that we are now, I don't have to, but you tread on eggshells these days for what you might say, what you might think, what you might look like, who you're having an opinion about, and why it is a nightmare. And the cancel culture is alive and kicking because of the activist groups that just have nothing better to do but round people up because they live vicariously their lives through they wish they were, but they're not. That's my statement. So, Nicky Buckley, thank you so much for coming in.
That was fun, a good trip down memory lane.
No,
there.
good on you. You're a star, and thank you very much.